Hey Spencer, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. What have you been up to lately?
Oh man, just we've been on the road, which has been really fun. So the last 2 days I did nothing. I played some golf and I watched movies and had kind of my weekend on my Monday and Tuesday. It was very nice and relaxing.
Is this like your first true tour that you're on right now?
Yeah, we've kind of done spot dates like either by myself or opening for people, but this is definitely the first like headlining thing where people are showing up to see us, to hear my music. So it's been really incredible.
What's been the most surprising thing about that experience for you?
Um, it's not like it's necessarily that surprising, but I didn't understand like the magnitude of it because the internet is such a big place and you think you understand numbers like millions, whatever, but you don't. And then you go out and you have some sort of VIP meet and greet situation where every person in line is telling you a story of how they used my person at their vow renewal or they're using maid at their wedding or like those stories are it's really hard to fathom until you're face to face with another human. That's kind of why the internet thing's awesome, but the show thing is way cooler because you get to really feel it in your bones.
You kind of forget that there's people behind all those numbers. You just see a number and you forget that there's a
Then
person.
I'll look at like comments and you'll just see like 1,000 comments and you're like, oh, cool. In reality, if there was 1,000 human beings in a line telling you, great job, thumbs up, you'd be like, wow, I feel so loved. And I think that's what shows are. It's like the
Yeah.
the real version of it, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's like the blessing and the curse of the internet is you have that quick interaction and then at the same point you like forget how important it is. It's just
Yeah, the novel can wear off really quickly. All of a sudden you have
yeah.
like, X amount of followers or views or comments, and you're like, cool. And again, in reality, that's like a football stadium full of human beings. So you got to put it in perspective. Shows are great for that. So it's been really fun this fall.
So when did you sort of know that music was something you wanted to pursue?
It's a great question. I wasn't the kid who grew up, in choir or like in band or anything. I took pride in that I was the football guy. So I did that for a really long time. And my senior year of high school, I started to learn the guitar a little bit, but still went off to go play college football. I got two massive shoulder surgeries, couldn't do that anymore, had no idea what to do with my life. And so I was sitting in my dorm room learning some chords, which learned some covers, which I learned how to start writing some songs. And I think once I started to write songs that like my friends would ask me to send them like a little recording of, I got so addicted to that and played a couple open mic nights and felt the adrenaline and just became fully addicted. So somewhere in there was like, I don't think I want to be in marketing or whatever I'm here in school to do. I think I want to do music forever and just went for it.
From one in a million dream to another.
Exactly.
So at what point did you know you were going to go full throttle towards music?
It was like my sophomore year. I had been doing it a little bit and then was, your friends are like, oh, that's cool that you kind of do it. And I think something in me flipped where I was like, I don't think I'm such an extreme person. Like, I just have to do something all in or not. And I felt this like kind of halfway commitment thing. I was like, nah, I got to do this. So I really asked myself, like, what is the goal? And when I thought of it, the thing that came to mind was we'd go see Kenny Chesney at a stadium growing up, like every summer. And it was like my favorite night of the summer. And I was like, I think the goal is to play a football stadium. And to do that, I got to be 1,000% in. And so I just literally, I started, my parents hate when I say this, but I started ditching class and I would just like sit there and like follow people on Instagram and be like, hey, check out my music. Like I just went all in. And for the last, 7 years, it's been just learning how to write songs, doing the dang thing on the internet. And I don't know, like somewhere along there, along that time, that is like, it just clicked and I just knew what I had to do. I knew I couldn't do it halfway anymore. And all my friends will tell you, I started saying, like, when people are like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a country music artist. That was a big flip in my brain. I was like, I just got to start saying it, even if people make fun of me, even if I'm not very good yet. I just got to go all in.
Got to speak it into existence.
Exactly.
So have you looked back ever since you made that decision, or it's been full steam ahead ever since?
It's been full steam ahead. I mean, I love other projects that I have. Like I have a podcast that I do that I think is super fun, and I would love that to be a part of my plan moving forward. But for the most part, when I think of what makes me happy, what I want to spend my time doing, it's music. To make this thing that like brings people together and universally tells your story, yet somebody else's story. Like it is magic. It is drugs. I can't imagine doing anything else. I think I'd be very bored and lost.
So did you always know that Nashville is where you wanted to end up eventually?
Not necessarily. Like I didn't really understand how country music worked. So like I started messaging people or would get messages from people when I was in college and they'd be like, "Are you in town?" And I didn't know what in town meant. So I'd just say, yeah, like, cause I was in a town. And they're like, "No, you gotta like move to Nashville. You gotta like be here and take meetings and whatever." So around that time started to get educated from some very kind individuals on the internet, just saying, nope, this is where you gotta be. If you wanna make it happen, you gotta live in Nashville.
So when did you make the plunge and move out to Nashville?
Moved to Nashville in August 2016. So just a little bit over 5 years ago, which feels crazy.
Does it feel like yesterday or like you've been there forever?
It's both, it's that weird feeling of like some days I'm like, did I really, was that 5 years ago? Like I remember so vividly the morning of like putting all my crap into my Nissan Pathfinder and like it was just packed. I couldn't see out my rearview mirror. My parents are crying and give me big hugs and like that feels like yesterday. And then sometimes I'm like, that feels like 25 years ago. Like so much has happened in between. So it changes day to day.
What would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned in those 5 years in Nashville?
It's a really good question. I think the lesson that I continually try, like there's like kind of three things that I really, for lack of a better term, like I kind of like meditate on these things. And one is patience. Like it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. It'd be boring if it happened tomorrow, like enjoying the process and the journey. Grace, like just really understanding that I've never done this before. So like, how could I know what to do perfectly next? That doesn't make any sense. So I just try to be really kind to myself and just be like, you're trying your hardest. So don't beat myself up. That's not going to help anything. And then along with that, I think is just learning how to fail as fast as possible. Because through my failure, that's when I get dangerous. That's when I learn a lot. And I think, I don't know if I'm the most talented artist in Nashville, but I think I work really, really hard and I allow myself to fail and learn because I stopped caring about the judgment of other people. And I think that's been a lesson that's been really, really helpful is that if I like the music, that's all that matters. And then the rest stems from that.
So how difficult is it to sort of keep that perspective with everything else going on around you?
I think it's like an immune system. Like an immune system can be bad or good or whatever, but like I try to, not that it doesn't happen, but I try to treat it like a strong immune system. Like when it happens, how fast can I get back from it? And I think that's what like my time in Nashville has given me is just the ability, not that I'm not going to feel it, not that I'm going to not compare myself to other people, not that I'm going to, hate a song that I'm cutting while I'm cutting it, like all the things that you could imagine. It's going to happen. Just how fast can I remember, oh yeah, but it's the first time I've ever done it. Failure is the only way to move forward, like these little lessons. So it's just a part of it. It's hard though. It's difficult for sure.
Yeah, but it's good to have like those little reminders for yourself too, because otherwise you fall in the hole.
Absolutely.
So I want to shift to your music a little bit. How would you describe your musical style?
It's a really good question. I think I would just describe my musical style as this. What's really interesting to me is combining two things that you'd never think would work, and then they do. So like, I love really, really old and really, really new, and I like combining those two things. So I think country music is rooted in tradition and just this long line of like incredible songs and all these things. So I want to include that. And I also want to like keep pushing the boundaries with something that's like kind of old. So it's this mix, this beautiful mix of like vintage and future. And I hope that that is like, when people listen to a song of mine, they're like, whoa, that's cool because it has this thing that I love and that I've grew up loving. But it also like reminds me of something new and fresh, and it's a different take on the same thing. And so it's it's kind of also ever evolving, and that's what's interesting to me. I don't think it's very interesting to like find something and then beat it to death. Like my goal is to continue to make things that are interesting to me and my friends, and we listen to it in our car and we actually freak out about it. So it usually ends up being this like Frankenstein version of a bunch of genres, and usually the future and the past are really like battling it out, and I think that's the fun part.
I think that's so cool because I don't think people want to hear the same thing over and over and over again. They need something fresh.
Yeah, it always cracks me up when like I get the "you're not country" comments all the time, and like when I ask people, they'll be like, I just want, what happened to George Strait? It's like, dude, he has hundreds of songs. Just go listen to them. If you don't like my music, there's Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, Chris Christopherson, Reba. They have hundreds and thousands of songs. Why would I try to do a Kroger brand version of what they've already done? It's just not interesting to me personally. And so I think it's really fun to like push the limits, push myself, and I don't think it takes away from what those people have done. I think it actually is like a beautiful nod, like thank you, and now and it's here's my take on it.
Yeah. Have you ever sort of felt pressure to get away from that and go into more of a cookie cutter mold, or no?
Yeah, if I'm being honest, like especially when I first moved to town, because I had this idea of this cool like country music meets these things, but then people were like, nah, that'll never work. Like, and then there's pressure from yourself to just, I think, like listen to the radio and be like, cool, this is what's working, so this is what I need to make. But the reality is that song was written 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Got pitched, recorded, is climbing the charts. When it gets to number one, it can be 4 years old or 3 years old, 2 years old. So if you're constantly chasing the radio, you're actually chasing the past.
Yeah.
And I think there's this interesting thing for me, at least, when I realized like, what if, my last album, the first lyric in the whole album is, what if I'm just 100% me? And that was the question I asked myself in Wilderness. And I think that's what I kind of started this creative process for me of just really being authentic, not caring about genre, not caring about record labels, not caring about whatever. What do I think is cool? Staying in that like echo, like getting out of the echo chamber of Nashville, getting into my own head and like my co-writers and collaborators' heads, and then just kind of dying on that sword. I think it's really interesting. And but it's hard, to get back to the question. It's hard when you first move to pressure. You just want to succeed and see your dreams come true. And there's like a lie or a trap that like, oh, it'll happen if you're just like everybody else. And I think that steals creativity away from artists. It's like, in fact, do the opposite. Be so yourself that people are like, what the hell is that? And I think the more I'm here, the more that's more interesting to me.
Yeah. I feel like that's the kind of thing that also like something like TikTok has helped with sort of broadening our definition of what is music.
Dude, 1000%. And it's so cool because it lets the market decide what is or what isn't, what's cool or what isn't cool. And the market has never cared about genre. They don't care. They just want good music. And the industry and the Grammys and these things, it's their job to do that. So it makes a lot of sense. But the market is like, I don't care if it has a rock guitar and then a country this or whatever. Is it good? And so that's what's cool about TikTok. It just gives you the pure reaction of the market. It's so cool and interesting, exciting to be an artist in this time.
So was TikTok something easy for you to embrace, or were you reluctant?
I was like reluctant at first, I think, because I had built like a pretty good sized Instagram by that point. And I was like, are you kidding me? I have to do something else. And then I got on the app and I was scrolling and it felt like all I saw was like dancing. And I was like, oh God, like this is not me. This is not authentic. But I think I had a couple things early on, kind of pop or whatever, where I was like, oh, I can just do that. And it was like original music stuff and some cool like mashup things. And I was like, I can do this. So I'm gonna just go at that. And then once I found like the market embraced me for who I am, then I went all in, and it was just super easy and it was fun, and I've enjoyed my time on the app a lot.
So my person kind of really blew up on there, right?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. There's hundreds of thousands of videos, people using it as their wedding song. It's insane.
So when that was first starting to happen, what was going through your mind?
Just like kind of blown away. I had never experienced anything like that. My career up until the last year had been pretty like just kind of slowly climbing, just chilling, like getting better, better, better. And then I think TikTok took my person, and it's almost kind of scary because it becomes so out of your control. Like I would just get on TikTok and I'd gain like 10,000 followers overnight. Like, what just happened? And some celebrity would use it in their like wedding video, and it would just, I would see the streams jump, I would see it jump on the iTunes charts, and it was just like, what the heck? How is this possible? It's so early in the app. So honestly, the word that comes to mind is just thankful. I feel thankful. I feel lucky. I feel blessed that like my fans, the Stadium Gang, are so awesome. And I think a lot of those people found me through that app. So I'm forever grateful to the Clock app.
Clock app. The crazy thing about that is also that song's been out for a hot minute also. It wasn't like brand new when it started popping off.
It's wild. The story is that like it came out 2 years ago, over 2 years ago. And so the song came out, it like sat on some playlists, it did fine. But then it got taken off playlists and you saw the streams dip. And I think everyone was like, cool, like what's next? And I, the whole time was like, no, like this is the song. This is the hit. This is what I think is going to change my life as of right now. And so I just went to the market with it. I was like, all right, well, if the playlists and the radio and stuff like that isn't going to work out, which is totally fine. They saw the life of the song and they're right to do that. But I don't believe that. So I'm going to keep pushing the song, and I would make literally like 5 videos a day and just keep, kind of ringing the same bell. So it feels really cool that it all worked out the way it did. It's been such a slow roll, but I think it's actually been better that way because it feels like now that song is like kind of untouchable. Like nobody can like just knock it off. Like it has its own life without anything, and it has its own foundation. And I'm really proud. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Where was I going here? Totally forgot my train of thought for a minute. Sorry.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah. I thought I had a good question, and it's like, oh, popped out of my head. So when did you know that song was special?
I think I knew that song was special the day we wrote it, because there's just like this like feeling in the air, but I really felt it. I posted a clip of it on my Instagram story, and I post unreleased songs and stuff like that all the time. But this one, I think I'd literally had like 1,000 messages, which for me at the time, especially, crazy. And people were like, hey, where do I get this? Can I use this as my wedding song? Like a one listen they were in. And I was like, on the demo, like not. And the crazy part about that song, like a little behind the scenes, is it's pretty much the demo. Like we spruced some stuff up. We did some vocal changes or whatever. It was so simple and people loved it. I was like, I don't want to mess this up. Let's keep it relatively the same. So we added some steel and some of the stuff that's like really the sauce of the song. But it was at that moment I was like, okay, I have to put this. I literally called my manager. I was like, dude, we gotta put the song out. We're very stupid if we don't put the song out. And thank God we did. And from then on, it feels like every month I'm like, all right, well, maybe that song's done. Nope. The internet finds it. Sirius XM finds it. I mean, like, it has changed my life for real.
Yeah, it's crazy. You made a good decision there.
Absolutely.
So I also want to get to the new single Made. If you could tell us the story behind that song and how that song came together.
Yeah, I mean, from the writing side, I love my person so much, but I kind of had this feeling. I was like, I hope that people know that this is like a hard thing to find. Like to find your person is so incredible and it's such a special moment, but there's like so much in between meeting someone and then the montage and then the my person wedding moment. And I think Made is that response to that song, which I think is really special to go back to back like that, where like here's the peak of what love is, and here's like how to get there almost. And I think it's really special to have like the answer to that back to back. So Made came from me hearing, I mean, crazy. I was listening to a podcast. They were talking about one of my favorite shows, and they were talking about this line in the show. It's called The Good Place. And he's like, I don't know if soulmates are necessarily found or if they're like this thing. Maybe they're just like, you like make it together. It's this thing that's made. And I was like, that is special. It just lit everything up inside of me. I started writing some parts to this track that my manager sent me, brought it into some buddies. The day we wrote it, I was like, I'm recording this. This is going out. Like, I didn't even test it on the internet. I just felt pretty confident. And yeah, I mean, another just crazy, you put it on the internet. And I looked this morning, it's like the 21st most viral song in America. It's number 8 on the iTunes charts. It's done stuff on Billboard. It's doing things that I'm like, is this real? Like, I'm sitting above these people who I've admired and listened to my entire life on these charts and on these things. And again, the word is just grateful. I'm so grateful that I've had like maybe 3 or 4 videos change my life. Again, just like these things on the internet where people find it, they share it, and all of a sudden it's their song. And so it's very out of my control, but I'm glad that it is. It's awesome.
I was going to say before that it almost sounds like a prequel to My Person. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that it is, because I think there's like a thing in country music right now where I think the fairy tale like love song, the boyfriend country thing or whatever, which I have been a part of, because everybody wants that moment. Like, of course. So that's something that we're all very attracted to. But I just wanted to make sure that my addition to country music came with some reality and came with some like, because at your wedding, you don't want to hear about like the hard stuff. That's not the moment for that. But I think while you're going through it, you do, and you won't feel alone. You won't feel crazy. And I think the messages I've gotten from Made are different than My Person, but they're just as meaningful. And it's like, I mean, this is a real message I got. Like, I was thinking about divorcing my husband, but I listened to Made, and it made me realize like, oh, there isn't greener grass somewhere else. Like, I got to water this thing and make it happen and make it work. And for that person, something clicked over, and that is crazy to me. That's so special. And like, I'm so proud of that message in that song. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the firsthand impact of your music. Wild.
Yep. Again, back for like just having people come up to me and be like, Made saved my marriage. Like, that's the thing. That's so cool. And I feel very privileged, and like, I don't take that for granted. It's really incredible.
So what's next for you now?
What's next is a really big project that I think a lot of people will be shocked that I am attempting, but I am on fire about music right now. Like, I think the last year or so, I've just really found this new thing, like kind of what you're talking about with the sonic identity stuff, like really leaning into who I am. And what's next is kind of just more of the same. Like, I just keep getting a little smarter, a little faster, a little stronger at what I'm good at. And I think it's just more good music. It's more touring. I think we have some really fun tour opportunities in the new year. And the way that I think about it is just feeding the fans, the people that I call the stadium gang. They're my homies. So we just come up together and making sure that they feel loved and we're adding value in their life, because, you know, I can't stream Made how it's streaming right now. That's all those people. So how do we give them as much love as possible and make them feel like they're heard and seen in my music and my art? That's important.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time for this.
Of course. Thanks, Andrew.
Have a great day.
You too, man. See ya.
Bye.